Day 522 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, y'all, we're back again another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 1488, avoid flood in the city. The difficulty level is medium, but don't worry because you already know we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as possible. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, hype, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. Your country has an infinite number of lakes. Initially, all the lakes are empty, but when it rains over the nth lake becomes full of water. If it rains over a lake that is full of water, there will be a flood. Your goal is to avoid floods in any lake. Given the integer array range, where range of I is greater than 0 means there will be rains over the range of I lake. If range of I is equal to 0, that means there are no rains this day and you can choose one lake this day and dry it. Return an array ands where ands.length is equal to range.length. Ands of I is equal to -1 if range of I is greater than 0 and ands of I is the lake you choose to dry in the ith day if range of I is equal to 0. If there are multiple valid answers, return any of them. It is impossible to avoid flood. If it is impossible to avoid a flood, return an empty array. Notice that if you choose to dry a full lake, it becomes empty, but if you choose to dry an empty lake, nothing changes. Okay, y'all, so that may seem a little bit confusing at first. So let's take a look at these examples just to make sure that we are doing this problem correctly. They give us three nice examples to look at, so let's go through them. So in example 1, we have our input range equals an array of integers 1, 2, 3, and 4. The output is -1, -1, -1, -1. The explanation says after the first day, full lakes are 1. After the second day, full lakes are 2. After the third day, full lakes are 1. After the second day, full lakes are 1 and 2. After the third day, full lakes are 1, 2, and 3. And after the fourth day, full lakes are 1, 2, 3, and 4. There is no day to dry any lake, and there is no flood in any lake. So let's break this down one step further. So after the first day, we have this lake right here is full, so we can return a -1 in the output. It says right here, if ands of I is ands of I equals -1 if range of I is greater than 0. So our output would be ands of I and range of I would be the input, right? So right now, range of I is 1, that's greater than 0. So when we return our ands array, we're going to put -1 right there because range of I is greater than 0. So since 1 is greater than 0, we're putting a -1 right here. Then on the second day, the full lakes are 1 and 2, right? So now we have 2 full lakes, so we need to put another -1 right here. Then on the third day, we have 1, 2, and 3, so we add another full lake. We put another -1 right here, and then on the fourth day, it's another full lake, so we put a -1 right here. As you can see, all of these elements are greater than 0. That's why we have all of these elements as -1, right? Because it says if ands of I, or it says ands of I equals -1 if range of I is greater than 0. And in this case, all range of I's are greater than 0. So we have an array of -1s that are equal to range.length. Now, I understand that may not help with the understanding at all. So let's take a look at example 2, and hopefully this does the trick. So in example 2, we have our input range equals an array of integers 1, 2, 0, 0, 2, and 1. This time our output is -1, -1, 2, 1, -1, -1. So let's look at the explanation so we can see how they got this output from this input. So it says after the first day of the full lakes are 1. So boom, we have this one. This lake right here is full after the first day. We put -1 like we did before. Then it says after the second day, full lakes are 1 and 2. Boom. So then we add another -1 like we did before. Boom. Both of these are greater than 0. So we add 2 -1s. Then after the third day, we dry lake 2 dry lake 2. So on this third day, we have is 0, right? So it says right here, ands of I is the lake you choose to dry on the ith day if range of I is equal to 0. So In this case, range of I is equal to 0 right here, meaning we can dry up one of these two lakes because we're trying to avoid a flood. As you can see, we have more rain coming, so we need to dry up one of these lakes before the rain comes and it floods. So say we don't dry up any lakes and this 2 comes again. This represents lake 2. And so since lake 2 is already full, if it rains on lake 2 again, that means lake 2 is going to flood. However, we have a fix for that, right? Because it doesn't rain right here. It's a sunny day, so we could dry up lake 2 before it rains again over here. So if we dry up lake 2 before it rains, then we'll avoid a flood, hence avoid flood in the city. So we need to dry up lake 2. We're going to use this 0 to dry up lake 2. So now lake 2 is dry. Boom. Then after the 4th day, we dry up lake 1 and there are no full lakes. So as you can see, we have another 0. We already dried up this lake, but we have another 0, which means we're able to dry up another lake. And in this case, lake 1 is still full, so we might as well dry lake 1 up as well. Boom. So we just insert the 2 right here because we dried to let our output know. So our output knows we dried up lake 2 right here, and then with this 0, and then we dried up lake 1 right here. This lets us know we dried up lake 1 right here with this 0. Boom. So now we keep going. After the 5th day, the full lakes are 2. Boom, because as you can see, it's a 2 right here. So that means 2, it rained on lake 2 and lake 2 is full again. Because remember, we dried it already with this 0. So we already dried lake 2, but then it rains on lake 2. So now lake 2 is full again. So we could return a -1 right here because lake 2 is full. And then similarly, it rains on lake 1 again. Remember, lake 1 is still empty. From this 0, we dried it up right here, but then it rains again on lake 1, which fills it back up, and we put a -1 right here. And I hope that makes sense to y'all, and that's how we got this output. Now let's take a look at example 3, where it's impossible to avoid a flood. And when it's impossible to avoid a flood, it says right here, if it is impossible to avoid a flood, then we return an empty array. So as you can see, these first 2 examples, we were able to avoid all of the floods, right? We could avoid the floods. In example 3, it's impossible to avoid a flood, so let's take a look at it. So in example 3, we have our input range equals an array of integers 1, 2, 0, 1, and 2. Our output is a blank array because, once again, it's impossible to avoid a flood. It says after the 2nd day, full lakes would be 1 and 2. We have to dry 1 lake in the 3rd day. So we're going through the days. This day 1, lake 1 is full. Day 2, lake 1 and 2 are full. Boom. Then we get to the 3rd day, we're at a 0. Boom. So now we could dry up one of these lakes. Let's just say we dry up lake 1, right? Boom. So then we come right here. Lake 1 is dry. We fill it up. We fill it back up with this one. So now lake 1 is full. Then we come over 2. It rains on 2, but remember, we never dried up lake 2. We only dried up lake 1 because there's only 1 0. So in this case, this 2 is going to rain on lake 2 again, and lake 2 is already full. So since lake 2 is already full, that's going to cause a flood. And since it's a flood, that just wipes out all of these 2 -1s that may have already been there, because now we have a flood. The flood wipes out all of those -1s, and we just return a blank array. It says we have to dry up 1 lake on the 3rd day. After that, it'll rain over lakes 1 or 2. It's easy to prove that no matter which lake we choose to dry on the 3rd day, the other one will flood. So even if we could, with this 0, we could dry up lake 2. But even if we dried up lake 2, that means lake 1 is still full, and then it floods right here when it rains again on lake 1. If we dry up lake 1 using this 0, then when it rains right here on lake 1, we're good, but we never got a chance to dry up lake 2. So when it rains again on lake 2 is going to flood. So either way, there's going to be a flood, and we're going to have a blank array as our output. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. And now that we understand the question, let's get into the fun part, the actual solution. Solution's not that difficult at all. So let's get into it. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to initialize our result array with -1, meaning the default value is raining that day. So we're going to say, come right here, we're going to say var res, and we're just going to set that equal to an array, open up the parentheses, and we're going to say repeating colon -1 comma count colon rains dot count. Boom. So what this is going to do is just going to initialize an array for us, and the array is going to have all -1s up to range dot count, whatever length that is. Boom. Then we're going to come underneath this, and we're going to create a dictionary to store the last day of each lake was filled. So this is, once again, this is just going to keep track of the last day that the lake was filled. So we're going to declare a variable called dict, and we're going to set that, we're going to say colon, and that's going to be a dictionary. The key is going to be an integer, colon, value is going to be an integer, colon, and then we could just initialize it with a blank dictionary like this. Boom. Then we need an array to store the indices or days when it's not raining or when we can dry a lake. So we could declare a variable called ddays for days we could dry days, and we could say colon, open up the square brackets, and it's going to be an array of integers, and we could say equals, we'll just initialize it with a blank array like that. Boom. So for the first pass, all days where it doesn't rain, we're going to mark them as dry days and set the result to 1. So we're going to say for I in 0 dot dot less than rains dot count, we're going to open up the brackets, and we're going to say if rains square bracket I equals 0, then we're going to open up the brackets, and we're going to say res square bracket I, we're going to set that equal to 1. Boom. Then we're going to iterate through each day and its corresponding lake rain value. So we're going to come underneath this for loop right here, and we're going to say for, open up the parentheses, I comma n. Then we're going to say n rains dot enumerated. So with this enumerated, and put the parentheses after enumerated, what this enumerated is going to do is it's going to loop through the array or iterate through the array, and it's going to get us the value and the index, right? So this would be index 0 with a value of 1, and this might be index 1 have a value of 2. This enumerated gets us both the index and the value of that array. Then we can open up the brackets, and we'll say if n equals 0, then we could open up the brackets, and if it's no rain today, then we're going to store this day index as a dry day. So we're going to say ddays dot append, open up the parentheses I, and then we come underneath that, and we could say continue. Then we come right here, and we can say else, open up the brackets, and if it is raining on Lake N today, then we're going to say if dict square bracket n equals nil, then we'll open up the bracket, and if this lake has not been filled before, we're going to record its fill day by saying dict square bracket n, we're going to set that equal to I. Boom. Then we come right here on this if, and we say else, open up the brackets. If the lake was already filled earlier, we must dry it before today. So we're going to say else, then we're going to say another if. We're going to say if ddays dot count is greater than 0, we're going to open up the brackets. We're going to declare a variable called done, set that equal to false. Then we are going to look through all of the available dry days. So we're going to come underneath this. Once again, we're going to say for, open up the parentheses. We're going to say j comma d, come outside the parentheses. We're going to say n ddays dot enumerated again. Then we'll open up the parentheses, open up the brackets, and we're going to find the first dry day that comes after the last time this lake was filled. So we're going to say if d is greater than dict square bracket n, then we are going to open up the brackets. Sorry, y'all, we're going to come right here, open up the brackets, and we are going to say, or we're going to use this dry day to dry the lake. So we're going to say, or first we need to put exclamation point right here. Sorry, y'all. Then we're going to say, we're going to come right here, and we are going to say, let end equal d days dot remove, open up the parentheses, at colon j. Boom. Come underneath this, and on that dry day, we're going to mark that we dried this specific lake by saying res square bracket end. Come outside the square bracket, we're going to set that equal to end. Then we're going to come underneath that and update the last field day of this lake to the current day by saying dict square bracket end. Come outside of that, set that equal to I. Then we're going to come underneath that. We're going to say done equals true. Come underneath that, and we're going to break. Boom. Then we're going to just come all the way down here, and we need to return our final output by coming right here. Oh, sorry, y'all. We're not done yet. Moving too fast. So we're not done yet, because if no valid dry day has been found after the lake was last filled, then flooding is unavoidable. So we need to handle that by coming right here. And we're going to say if done equals false. Then we're going to open up the brackets. We're going to say res equals square bracket. Come underneath that, we're going to say break. Boom. Then we're going to come right here on this else. We're going to open up the brackets. And if no available dry day, that means flooding is unavoidable. So we can say res equals blank array. Come underneath that, and we can say break. Boom. Then we could come all the way right here, and we could return our final answer by, we just need to say return res. Boom, y'all. So that should be all she wrote. Let's give it a run. Let's see. Okay, can I find D-Days and scope? Oh, this should just be no S. No S here either. Well, you know what? We could just keep the S's, and we could just add the S up here since they all have S's. Boom. So now let's run it again. See if that does the trick. It's accepted, so let's go ahead and submit it. Make sure it's still accepted after we submit it. Let's see. And look at that, y'all. 227 milliseconds beats 100% of users. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'd like to see, y'all. So with that being said, make sure you get one more look at the code. This is the top part. This is the middle part. And this is the bottom, y'all. And yeah, I hope y'all learned something today. And I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.